summit focuses on trade and investments, and it extends almost to 7 continents to promote trade for peace.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin Marsh. I am the Secretary General for Universal Peace Federation UK, who is one of the partners for today's program. I also got the honor of being a director of World Humanitarian Drive, and I really want to support and help its activities. And today we are considering strengthening the global economy, particularly with the World Humanitarian Drive's initiative, Trade for Peace. We have seen in recent years how geopolitical tensions have stunted trade between some nations, and how these trends have been exacerbated by the pandemic. Earlier in the program, we offered a moment of silence for those who are suffering from this pandemic, and our heart and concern naturally goes out to them. At this time, we are going to look forwards and hear from our experts today as to how the global economy can, to use a political slogan, bounce back better, enhancing trade for peace and raising millions out of poverty. We'd like to start by introducing Dr. Abdul Basit Syed, the chairman and founder of World Humanitarian Drive. And he has been introduced formally once or twice today already, but he is a British Indian global peace activist, writer and entrepreneur who's living in Croydon, UK. It's his drive and passion which is pushing forward the World Humanitarian Drive in many initiatives, and particularly this initiative today, Trade for Peace. We are going through we're having the second edition. The first edition was a tremendous success 2 years ago in 2019, and some of the speakers today are returning from that. Just looking at today's program, you can have some understanding of the effort over the past 3 or 4 years that has been invested in the development of WHD. Abdul Basit Syed has been a restless person wanting to push forward to make a difference and enhance global harmony. The screen is yours, Dr. Abdul Basit Syed.
Thank you, dear most Robin. Thank you so much. So first and foremost, our distinguished guest, Dr. Arban Malaj from Albania, Honorable Paul Clark joining from UK, Dr. Sandeep Marwa from India, Dr. Raghavan Sitaraman, CEO of Doha Bank, joining us from Qatar, Dr. Datuk Amir Bukovic joining us from Bosnia. So it is a pleasure and honor to also welcome Dr. Andrew Navin joining us from Nigeria. It is a very, very prestigious panel to have you all, along with our dearmost Dr. Purushottam, who is the international human rights activist from Bangalore, who, as I said earlier, who was victimized by the serial blast of Colombo in 2018. So we have a distinguished panel of international speakers who understand trade and finances and who can guide us through how we can strengthen the economy and finance. When I started WHD was started with a mission of promoting the ideas of peace, education, and trade harmony. So why I say peace, education, and trade harmony is because when there is proper trade harmony, we can finance good education. When we can finance good education, there will be peace in this world. So this is the idea of our core principles, which I'm trying to imbibe through my organization. So this initiative, Trade for Peace, is an initiative to promote the integration of global economy for peace. So our events of today are focused on the nexus between trade and peace. You can see our events aim to achieve peace through our events involving private sectors in peace building efforts. And the contributions of Trade for Peace can be one day will be an able contributor in stopping cold wars, which is happening around the world. And the way I called it Trade for Peace is because you can often hear it in the news media, trade wars. So I decided when there can be trade wars, there can be also trade for peace. And if you look into it, often geographically located countries like India, Pakistan, and who have been arch rivals, there is no trades which are happening. So probably that is one of the reasons why the peace efforts for a dialogue is being skipped and there is a war in action or the skirmishes in action. So our Honorable Trade for Peace Committee, Professor Arban Malaj, has been very helpful for us in framing the constitution for our initiative for Trade for Peace, and he has been very supportive. His excellence in finance and role model has increased our guidance to support the world of trade in promoting the idea of Trade for Peace. And I'm pretty sure all the panelists over here are pretty much understanding in terms of economy and trade, like Dr. Andrew Nevin, who calculates for a country and a region's economy within his fingertips. So I'm sure this will be honey to our ears to listen to. And I'm pretty sure a lot of students from around the world, I probably guess around 10 to 20,000 people would be watching this program live through our Youth Ambassadors Club and other regions, would be really intrigued to understand and exploit the opportunities granted by you honorable people today. So I once again thank you everyone for joining us, supporting us, and our partnership organization, Universal Peace Federation, who has been an able conductor and moderator of this event in terms of promoting the ideology of WHT. So I thank you once again. Without any further ado, I call upon Robin to introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you can see, we have a great vision. And I would like to refer to our original schedule. And I'd like to invite Dr. Andrew Nevin to speak first. He is a partner and chief economist of PricewaterhouseCoopers, Nigeria. He's an advisory partner, chief economist at PwC Nigeria. He's an iconic figure in Nigeria, playing a number of key roles to advance Nigeria's and West Africa's economy and society. He holds a PhD in economics from Harvard University and an MA in philosophy and politics from Balliol College, Oxford University. If I could say something, he's someone who has a really global experience after working for a number of years in China and learning the language, working in Japan, in the Gulf, in Europe. He was in London for a long time. And now in Africa, he is someone who really has a global insight into global trade. And we look forward to your remarks. The screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin, and thank you so much. As they say in Nigeria, please allow me to stand on all existing protocols. But just a real delight to be here with such a distinguished group of speakers and panelists, and with UPF on that. So yeah, let me just kick off by making a few remarks about about the trade and economics. I mean, I think we all sort of understand the concept of otherness. And of course, as Robin said, I've been all over the world. I went to China the first time in 1983, moved there in 1998. And it's very easy sitting in one place to have a view of another place or another people that is not accurate. And I'm particularly keenly aware of this as someone who spent a decade, more than a decade living in Nigeria, in fact, in Lagos. And I won't ask anyone in the audience or even my co-panelists what image comes to mind when you say the word Lagos, but I'm sure for many of you, it's not a very positive image. And yet we're also aware of the places that we have experience with, that what you read in the media is not always accurate on that. So there are some places around the world, I don't necessarily have a positive, I won't name them in this setting. I don't necessarily have a positive viewpoint, but again, it's because I haven't experienced those places. The places that many places I've had a chance to experience, I come away with a positive viewpoint on that. And that the reason I raise all this is because if we think about the nexus of trade, of investment, of education, those are all elements that take others or otherness and make it familiar on that. And it's such a powerful force for peace around the world, which is the objective of all the people today. I mean, it's been written many times by economists, you don't go to war with people that you do trade with on that. But particularly in the Nigerian context right now, it's not just trades in goods and services that's critical. It's also just the movement of people to remove that feeling of otherness. So as I said before, I'm sure, as I won't ask again, but we all have negative feelings, or many of us negative feelings about Nigeria. And yet there's such a large Nigerian diaspora. And I've written very much about this in the Nigerian context, saying that's our greatest asset, because that incredible diaspora, many of them educated with very strong positions in the countries, their new homes, they're the ones that are projecting a positive image of Nigeria, are negating the sense of otherness of Nigeria as an example, otherness of Africa as an example on that. So when we take our objective as people who are all pursuing peace, each of those connectivities adds to that equation. The more connections, and it's not just one of the things I think that's very critical, and something that is maybe hard to understand from a Western viewpoint, is we tend to think of the axis as going Europe, Africa, or US, Africa, Europe, India, US, India, Europe, China, US, China. But the reality is it's not a question of those relationships. It's a whole matrix of relationships. I mean, it's incredible when you sit in Nigeria to see the connectivity between Nigeria and Lebanon, the connectivity between Nigeria and India, for example. So we're not trying to create just a few strands in this connectivity. We're trying to create a very deep and strongly woven matrix across all parts of the globe on that. And when I get asked about geopolitical issues in Nigeria, and my answer is very clear. I said, look, Nigeria and Africa as a whole, we want to have strong, peaceful, fruitful relations with everyone. We want it with China, despite the present difficulties we face. We want it with Southeast Asia. We want it with Indochina, with Pakistan, with India. We want it with the Middle East. We want it with Europe, and we want it with the United States on that. So we want that strong bonds in a very rich sort of matrix going forward. And we're just bringing out a paper, for example, on the relationship between Nigeria and India, with Nigeria about to be the world's second largest democracy by population, and not too distant future on that. But let me end my remarks by adding one other point, which I think is critical. I mean, we're all aware, obviously, of COVID, and as Robin said, we're going to have a prayer for those victims of COVID. We all truly hope that we'll build back better, though I have to confess, when I read some of the press in North America and the UK, I'm not sure we're headed that way. But one of the things that is really central to building back better is resiliency. So what does resiliency mean? Well, in the trade context, it means that you can't be over-reliant on one supply chain. I mean, we all see some of the difficulty, I mean, in addition to all the human loss, but we're seeing some economic losses that come because we had what were efficient but very fragile supply chains, long supply chains, unique suppliers of certain key components on that. So as we come out of this, if we think of trade for peace, we want a system that is much more robust and much more resilient to shocks on that. And for 30 years, we've traded off resiliency for efficiency. But what we're finding is that an efficient system can often be extremely fragile. So a resilient system in this context would mean you'd have rich trade relationships and all manners of goods and services, all manners of value added across many different nations and many different combinations. So if one of the supply chains had a break in the link, then it's not going to bring down the whole system on that. So let me stop with my remarks there. I'm really looking forward to listening to every panelist today. But just again, thank UPF and Robin and all of my co-panelists and speakers today. It's really an immense privilege to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's wonderful remarks. I like the point of resiliency, the matrix of relationships that we need to have to make this world develop in its global economy so that many people can come out of poverty. I'd like to turn now to Professor Dr. Arben Malaj, who is a former finance minister of Albania. He has graduated in finance at the University of Tirana and served as the Minister of Finance and Economy in Albania. From 2005 to 2006, he attended Harvard Kennedy School as a senior fellow, focusing on research into Western Balkans, European integration. Professor Malaj is currently serving as the president of the Institute of Public Policy and Good Governance. And since 2016, he has been a member of the Supervisory Council of the Bank of Albania. He is the visiting professor at different public and private universities. And we really look forward to your remarks and how you see it from Albania's perspective. Professor Arben Malaj, the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, my dear friend. Thank you very much for everyone who is participating in this mission of WHD. I'm very honored to be part of steering committee, and I like to share in this speech key elements of relation between peace and prosperity and challenges ahead of our global economy. The first, we know the very strong relation between peace and prosperity, and based in history of Western Balkan country, peace is a precondition to have prosperity, but without high prosperity, especially for middle class and poor people, it's not possible to have lasting peace. And this is not easy challenges for all of us. We have different way how to promote peace through better cooperation and integration between all countries, especially between countries which have been in a conflict, ethnic or religious conflict. And we remember that what happened in Western Balkan country until 2000. And in this context, we have a good model which can inspire us as an EU. From 1919 to 1945, Europe had two world wars and feed from extreme nationalism. But in 2005, the leaders of EU knows that it's not possible to continue with extremist nationalism because they pay high social cost to their people. And them started to work together. Doesn't matter, 5 years ago they've been enemies and they became to be partners for peace and prosperity. Is any problem or I can continue?
Please continue.
Okay. And for this reason, in Western Balkan countries, I started to work under the project of EU membership, started in 1990s, but the roadmap started with a free trade agreement on a bilateral level. I had been sometimes Minister of Finance of my country, but the best position had been Minister of Economy, and I recommend our friends, if they can choose between two of them, to be Minister of Economy is better to be Minister of Finance. And at that time we signed a free trade agreement between all countries in our region, about 31 free trade agreements, which help us to get down some mentality barriers more than physical barriers. But if we are looking how to improve the better relation between countries, especially which have been in conflicts, Albania never been in conflicts, but conflicts have been between Serbia, Croatia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is very disparate example. I just came from Mostar. I was very disappointed when I see the very good high schools and close to them the banks who had been bombed during the war. But let's stay in a positive approach, and through this kind of the cooperation, we started to increase cooperation between Albania and all countries, but also between all countries and in a regional approach, because we see that it's good to start on a bilateral level, but it's not possible to have sustainable achievements without a regional approach and a global approach. What is necessary to share with students, not with you, is that when we started some reforms, we have three pillars. The first is legal framework. Second is legal institution. And third is efficiency of this kind of institution who have obligation to create the free and fair trade. For our countries, with strong cooperation with EU and US and others bilateral partners, it's easy to write the excellent framework, but it's easy to build up institution under the concept of the law, but implementation is very difficult. We in the Balkans have a more trade war between Albania and Kosovo than Albania and Serbia, because the West interest, corruption and state capture doesn't have nationality. They just fight for high profits through the corruptions. In this context, my idea, which I share with my colleagues, is okay. The first step, legal framework. Okay, second is institutional framework. But what about the performance? Because we know in the trade between different countries, we have two groups, the tariffs and barriers. For tariffs, we are under the pressure to respect them based on the timetable. I had been in Doha in 2002 or 2003 when they was the World Trade Organization Summit. And we didn't achieve any result there because countries had different interests to go deeply in the free trade. But the second is about integrity and professional of leaders of this kind of institution to fulfill all obligation about free trade. And in this pillar, Western Balkan countries or countries with weak institutions have lots of difficulties based on the nepotism, based on the corruption, and based on the unstable public administration and unstable of public administration, especially in this kind of institutions which have a lot of pressure. But what about strengthening global economy? We are facing with many challenges, but on the top of them is highly inequality. When eight billionaires have a wealth like 3.5 billion people, and this is a risk because it's created social tension, it's created political instability, is the best ally of nationalism and creates lots of problems of the challenges ahead. In this context, we need the global responsibility for the global challenges and better coordination between all factors. I'm optimistic of last development on G7, G20 to apply the 15% tax of corporation which have their money on the fiscal paradise. We have some good signals from not just from US government, but also of EU to help countries with weak institutions to find the corruption and state capture as a risk for security, but also as a risk for better economic, social, and political development in our countries. I'm not sure about the time, but I'm sure the colleagues will be more productive than me in their contribution.
Oh, it was very insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Malaj. And it's very good to see from Albanian and Western Balkans perspective the importance of global trade and the difficulties that come when there are frictions and tensions between different nations. And we wish Albania the great success in its process of EU membership and accession talks. I'd like to turn now to Dr. Vukovic, the CEO of Bosnia Bank, International, Bosnia and Herzegovina. And also from the Western Balkans, it's wonderful to have your contribution today. And you've been the CEO of Bosnia Bank International. It's the only Islamic bank in Southeast Europe. During your tenure as CEO, BBI, or Bosnia Bank International, has become the fastest growing bank in Bosnia and Herzegovina, positioning itself amongst the top performing banks on the market. In 2017, it was declared as the best managed bank in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's a great accolade. And under your management, assets have increased eightfold. You were declared as the best banking CEO in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2011, 14, and 16. And you're included on the list of 50 most influential world leaders in Islamic economy by Islamica 500 Business Guide for 2018. We really look forward to your comments, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Marsh. It is an honor and pleasure to be with all of you on this panel. I would like to congratulate Dr. Abdul Basit Syed, the chairman of World Humanitarian Drive, for the excellent organization of the event this year. This year's Trilateral Global Summit. And it is really an honor for me to be part of the session on strengthening the global economy. How we see from Sarajevo and from Bosnia, the current situation in the world is that we are actually in the 2021, we are at the crossroads. We are at the crossroads, and I think events of this nature are actually very encouraging, because we have two paths. We have either this civilizational dialogue, or we have a path of civilizational clash. We have a path of coexistence, or we have a path of confrontation. We have a path of trade, peace, and cooperation, and we also have a path of destruction, war, and confrontation. We are living in a smaller world, and with all the technology and all the advancements, we are daily seeing the interconnectivity of one to other. So the concepts like this one, which is the concept of trade and peace, which is initiated by Dr. Abdul Basit Syed, can help, especially a region like ours, like Balkans, because by trading with a fair share to support each other with mutual respect and integrity, supports the concepts of world peace and stability and the strengthening of the economy. We are becoming so close to each other, but at the same time, we still have concepts which are Stone Age concepts, like us against them. We have technology that is changing rapidly, but we have the human mind that is still captive in some Middle Ages. So we should really not remain enslaved with these concepts like us against them, but rather the concepts that are a mindset of Middle Ages. At that time, there were no mobile phones, there was no Google, and it is understandable that people could be manipulated with. But today, with the technology drive, how come that our mindsets are not following the path of development as the technology is? We really have to endorse this technology and access to information and knowledge that would remain these blockage and from our mindsets. And we should look at ways. I was listening to the presentation from Nigeria. It is really impressive to look at the world from these two different angles. But shouldn't we actually look at the ways of connecting Europe and Africa? Shouldn't we have a dream of connecting these two continents the same way Istanbul was connected, connected to continents of Europe and Asia with an underground tunnels? I mean, we should have these dreams that we should connect even further and not disconnect from each other. Of course, we have a challenge of COVID and how we dealt with COVID. And is COVID actually turning us into closed castles, or COVID is actually an indication how interconnected we are? Now in Bosnia, what really happens in Wuhan, in China, is affecting a small village in Bosnia within weeks. You know, so we are so much connected in this world with each other, and COVID is actually a direction that should connect us even further. We see that we cannot disconnect. You do not have castles that are separated from the rest of the world. This is not doable. And we should stop dreaming of establishing these castles. But for this, we have to have leadership, which is visionary leadership. Like after World War II, you know, you had a vision of Europe, Professor Arben Malay was talking about the vision of European Union that is actually an inspiration for us. But you had visionary leaders at that time, you know, who were talking, France and Germany was fighting, and then suddenly they were talking about the big interconnectivity between them and the joint country and the joint continent. So this was possible with the visionary leaders. We have to have visionary leaders today which can look beyond the mountains and see the future in a more creative way and not be part of all these current landscape of fears, of understandings and mainstream public opinion. They cannot be part of that. We have to have leaders that can see beyond the mountains and beyond different borders. The leaders that can, for example, we are talking about trade. We're talking about free trade, the free movement of goods around the world. We have to have leaders which also talk about free movement of people. Now, why do we have visas and why do we have these restrictions of movement of people, and at the same time we are promoting movement of goods? Why are goods? Why is a ton of sugar or of wheat has more freedom than me as a human being? Why cannot I move? But we really have, of course, this would go into various kind of fears of, you know, people, but we have to have leaders that can look ahead of time and say, well, let's dream of the world in which we are not only talking of a common market for goods, but we will be also talking of a common market of labor. Why wouldn't we have a free supply and demand of labor globally? Why do we have these restrictions? Why do we have all these fears? But for this, you have to have really visionary leaders that can that can look beyond our current time. And we in Bosnia and Balkans, like the Professor Arben mentioned, we were an example. And I am ashamed that my region is used as a concept like Balkanization. What means Balkanization? Means divisions, fightings, wars, decadence. You know, we went through, Yugoslavia was the most prosperous country in Eastern Europe. And now we are the backward country of Eastern Europe because of these fears, because of us against them. Because of this, we paid a very heavy price. And if we do not change the mindset of Europe today also, which I do not believe is out of that mindset, we have Europe turning into right, which is scary. It is scary because you are going into a same path that we used to go in early 90s. And if we do not find a solution for Balkans, which would be based on meritocracy, we have to have an Americanization of Balkans. We have to have these values of meritocracy. Unless you can implement these values in Bosnia, for example, in Sarajevo, which has been a place of real coexistence for 500 years, of Catholics, of Orthodox Christians, of Muslims. We lived here 500 years together. And this is not the same like other parts of Europe where you have immigrants coming in. We have indigenous people who have been living here for 500 years, arm to arm with each other. If we do not have a solution for Balkans, if Europe does not help creating a good solution for these people. I was sitting with two Republican congressmen from the United States last week, and I was saying, look, I was sitting together with the Croat and the Serb with them, and I said, can you tell me which one of us is a Serb and a Croat and a Bosnian? If you cannot, then can you imagine what kind of problem Europe will have? Because Europe is not only multi-religious, it is also multi-ethnic, multi-racial. In Bosnia, we are not multiracial, we are of the same race. We are of different ethnicities, but we are of the same race. And I would challenge any one of you to know by our look, by our language, by our appearance, the difference between us. But we still had a problem. And if you cannot restore this cooperation in Bosnia, how are you seeing the future of Paris? If me and a Catholic who have been, and an Orthodox have been living here for 500 years, if we do not have an example of coexistence, how will you see a coexistence between a Senegalese and a Frenchman and an Algerian all together living with French citizenship in Paris? How do you see? If we do not have a solution here, if we do not have a different value set up here, we will have Balkanization of Europe everywhere else. And then we are just going backwards. We are not advancing as the technology is. We're going to have many more Srebrenicas around the world. You will have Srebrenicas. And what we should promote is to having different kind of Dubais and Singapores and Dohas around the world, not Srebrenica. So it should start from here, where the coexistence is indigenous, where it lived for hundreds of years together. But unfortunately, I do not see Europe with its rightist turns. I do not see them mature enough. We need to have more meritocracy and Americanization of this Eastern Europe, rather than we have to see Europeanization of Eastern Europe. Because meritocracy should be the only merit on which we should judge people and create our society. So what we are doing in Bosnia for last 10 years, we have been promoting ideas of trade and coexistence. We are organizing big events. We're bringing all the leaders together on the Sarajevo Business Forum, all the leaders from Serbia and Croatia. We all gathered together and we say, let's look at each other as opportunity, not as a threat. And we have been trying to do this through Sarajevo Business Forum, through Sarajevo Halal Fair, through through Sarajevo Innovation Fair. We are trying to create a vision of Sarajevo as one of the meeting points between East and West. We are trying to envision Sarajevo as a model of coexistence, even though we were the model of destruction, war, and retrograde.
Thank you so much.
So I will just end with one sentence. We have to look into the future, because history does not end with us. We continue to write it. Thank you very much, Mr. Robin, and thank you for your patience listening to me.
Thank you for your wise comments. There was so much wisdom in that, born of experience, and the call for visionary leadership is remarkable, and the example of where that matrix of trading relationships, of human connectivity is not established and not flourishing, how difficult it can become. So with that, I would like to turn now to Dr. Sandeep Marwa, the Chancellor of AAFT University of Media and Arts in India. He is a well-known international media person with 7 world records to his credit. He is the founder of Noida Film City and Marwa Studios, an Asian Academy of Film and Television now. He is one of the 10 best film schools of the world. He is a producer of a large number of short films. He has trained 19,000 media professionals hailing from 145 countries of the world, and is a recipient of a large number of national and international awards. He has been heading for more than 100 national and international media and social organizations, and is the president of the International Chamber of Media and Entertainment Industry. He is now the Chancellor of AAFT University, Media and Arts, and has been appointed as the Chief Scout for India. So the screen is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening from India. Let me take this wonderful opportunity to extend my heartiest congratulations to Abdul Basit Syed for organizing such a wonderful and a purposeful program. I also extend my heartiest thanks for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be part of this valuable international event. Let me start with 2 lines. कि सभी दिशाओं से शुभ सुंदर भाव विचार भरे नित अंतर पुण्य धरा बन जाए स्वर्ग ये मेरे यत्नों से करुणा कर. Let me explain you in English, whether it is north, south, east or west, whether you're in India or abroad, whether you're on the top of the hill or you're standing at a seashore, whether you are in a lush green garden and looking at some colorful flowers, or maybe looking at the most beautiful woman on earth. But the fact is there are 2 things which are much more beautiful than what you can see with your naked eyes. And these 2 things are your thinking and your feelings. And the best part is that both the things are right within you. You don't even have to look outside with your eyes. With all these words, let's pray. Hey Lord, give me good thinking, give me good feelings so that I can do good deeds. And through my good karmas, I would love to convert this earth into heaven. This is what I believe in, and I'm sure you will also believe in the same. Well, coming to the subject, let me tell you, India is a spiritual capital of the world, and there we have learned that what I can do for humanity, what I can do for the community, what I can do for the country, rather than thinking that what country or a community or a society is doing for me. Coming back to my own case study, which I have been asked to speak today here. Well, at Marwa Studios, we are in films, television, media, art and culture business for 30 years. And we have believed that art and culture is the only way to bind the people of the world. And 30 years back, I gave this one single quote, which speaks like this: love, peace and unity through art and culture. And I'm happy that through my 100 organizations, which I'm chairing, we have been quoting, repeating, and shouting these 3 words again and again: love, peace, and unity through art and culture. I've been lucky enough, because how this art and culture brings in peace, because luckily I'm the founder of Noida Film City, and I know that when I opted this place, Noida, it was more popular for all the notorious works. And when I said I'm going to have a film city here, people laughed at me, rather I was declared almost a madman. And now after 30 years, I can comfortably say that Noida Film City is the fastest growing film city in the world. 100 acres, 75 acres outdoor, 25 acres indoor, 16 studios. Out of 16 studios, 350 channels are being broadcast to 162 countries, 24/7. 17,000 people are working around the clock, and around about 150,000 people, they have been able to earn their bread because of this film city. When it comes to Marva Studios, we made it a point that we should be the first one, since we are the founders, and Marva Studios have churned out around about 4,500 television programs for more than 50 channels. And we have been associated with around about 125 feature films, 5,000 training films, and Marva Studio actually has become the maternity hospital for most of the channels in India. All the channels, they slowly and gradually born from Marva Studios. Now, this is our originally contribution, where we realized that the more art and culture, the more film, television, and media, there's going to be a lot of love, peace, and unity. And I'm happy that after 30 years, the whole city, the North India, has actually become one. It has become one because of this one film city, which is bubbling with lots of art and culture. Well, Marva Studios has been now the case study in 27 countries of the world, and we have brought something like 2 million people under these 100 organizations together talking about love, peace, and unity. Well, the fact is that we are the first one in the world to announce 196 scholarships to the deserving student from 196 nations to come forward and have their courses in art and culture in India at Noida, so that there can be ample exchange of art and culture between these countries. We're also the first one to announce 196 short films, making of short films with foreign directors, so that we can bring in a lot of love, peace together from different parts of the world, right to India and vice versa. Well, we're lucky and confident that we've been actually conducting 10 major festivals right now, international level festivals, touching cinema, journalism, fashion, literature, and brought around 3 million people to Noida Film City, to Marva Studios, and talking about love, peace, and unity. I mean, obviously, it has taken us 30 years to prove ourselves, but then I am happy and I'm adamant and I'm stick to this line now forever. Our organization, World Peace Development and Research Foundation, has been working day in, day out for the same cause and propagating the word of peace to all the countries possible. Well, AFT University is the first probably institution where spirituality is the part of course. Which, and trust me, we are not churning out spiritual leaders. We are actually bringing out good human beings and good professionals from this university. Around 20,000 media professionals, they have already been churned out from AFT, and they are the real ambassadors of peace, because they know that love, peace, and unity can be created through art and culture. Our event management company, which has been set up 30 years back, I'm happy to say that we have conducted something like 7,000 events, anything and every genre, whatever you can think of. I'm not quoting much because the time is short. And the purpose, every event has a byline which says love, peace, and unity through art and culture. Well, we are in education, cinema, fashion, hospitality, tourism, media, PR events, advertising, fashion, design, performing arts, environment, law, skill development. AFT University has gone out of way to support any promotional programs, any event which is happening touching these departments. We have produced something like 3,000 short films, and we have given opportunity to around 10,000 media professionals hailing from almost 100 countries of the world. And yes, it has enhanced their profile, and also it has brought a lot of unity between the people, because when you make a film, you forget everything and you only think about one religion, and that is called filmmaking. Well, peace comes from satisfaction. And to add on to all our activities, we created 12 schools for unprivileged people. There are around 800 students who are learning day in, day out. And I'm sure they will also be one good day, good human beings. We are running 2 centers for special children. And you can well imagine they are the children ones. They're the ones which is not even being handled by their own parents. We have an International Women Forum, we have an International Children's Forum, and both the forums are working 360-degree to cover each and every issue of women and children, so that not only films, television, and media, but every issue possible of their life. So, and we are supporting these issues wholeheartedly. I'm happy that I've been nominated as the Chief Scout for India, and the responsibility of 5 million children has been showered to me, and I'm working with them in Scouts and Guides organization, so that I can inculcate a sense of and desire of peace within these small juniors of the country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marwa.
Could you? Oh, I thought I have 10 minutes.
Oh, if you could come to a conclusion, that's wonderful.
Okay, fine.
It's wonderful content. Thank you so much.
Happy the backdrop which I've just put in before the starting of the business because only this morning I've been nominated as the sole in charge, or rather I must say that as a global ambassador of all these 14 very important business heads by the government of India, the Niti Aayog, which is one of the most powerful organization under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, which speaks about partnership for goals, peace, justice, and strong institution, life on land, life below water, climate action, responsible consumption and production, sustainable cities and communities, and so on. I think I can cut short, and in the last I can only speak one line. Let me sum up that स्वयं विधाता होवे मानव अंतर में विश्वास जगाओ, चलो न मिटते पथ चिन्हों पर, अपने सूर्य स्वयं बन जाओ. Well, what it says that God has given us all those powers which he possesses himself, power to generate, power to operate, power to destroy. And it is entirely up to us that which power we would love to use for what purpose. So it's my humble submission to all the listeners, all the people, all the members here, that please use your energy for all peace purposes. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your contributions to building a culture of peace. This is wonderful. I would like to introduce now the Honourable Paul Clark. He became an MP for Gillingham in 1997, where he overturned a huge majority of 16,000. Before becoming an MP, he was a councillor, and before that, he has a background in the trade union movement. After being elected in 1997, Paul Clark was Parliamentary Private Secretary to Lord Irvine, then the Lord Chancellor, then to Lord Falconer, and to the Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott. Then he was the PPS for Ed Balls, each time in different government departments. In October 2008, he was promoted to Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State in the Department of Transport. And since leaving Parliament, he's established Gateway Associates, a company which draws on those skills and experience of policy, of government and communications to help other organizations communicate with Westminster and inform central government's decision-making process. So with this wide experience of politics and government, which has provided a strong foundation today to comment on trade for peace and strengthening the global economy. We look forward to your words, sir.
Robin, can I thank you for that introduction, and thank you very much for the time and effort that you put into the Universal Peace Federation. Can I congratulate WHD and the Trade for Peace Initiative, and of course the founder chairman, Dr. Abdul Syed. This is indeed a very important initiative and something that we constantly have to strive for. And I've been struck by many of the comments and contributions that we've had so far. And I might revert back to those, but keeping an eye on the clock as well. Don't worry, Robin. If one thing last year the pandemic has taught us is that we are nothing alone. And together we are far stronger. Now, you and I knew that before the pandemic, but by goodness, that has brought that home to us. And indeed, you know, thinking of the comments that, you know, I mean, for example, that Andrew was giving us about the many strands, the strong matrix of communications that exist and so on. shows that that is so important, that we need each other. None of us can live in splendid isolation. And none of us, of course, are safe until we are all safe. Whether we be in Africa, India, the Far East, or whether we are in Paris or London or New York. All of us need to be safe so that we are all together safe. And yet we know, of course, that some were born more equal than others. And that is true with countries as well. In the work that I've done, I've had, and today I have the real privilege of working with great people in India, in Nepal, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Sierra Leone, and in the past in Uganda and Kenya. And all of us are striving to make that difference and to improve that quality of life through trade and development and empowerment. I, as Robin said, spent some 13 years as Member of Parliament and Minister in the UK government, and I worked in planning, generation, housing, transport, all those areas that can make a real difference to people's lives. But to do that, that needs to be built on clearly economic prosperity of the country, of individuals, of being able to work and achieve for themselves and for their families and so on. And it's very interesting that Mr. Bukovic was saying about needing visionary leadership, and I might come to that in a moment. But the Middle East attitude, not Middle East, apologies, Middle Ages attitudes of us against them still prevails, and it's quite interesting. And you know, I can think of some of the conversations I had with constituents, for example, that had a sort of us and them mentality that was there. But I go back to the transportation. You and I know that if there's transportation that is there that can provide mobility, social mobility, for us to live closer to family, to move to where there's jobs, where there's prosperity, to educate ourselves. We know that it's also a means of getting goods to market so that you can actually put food on your table and on others' tables and other products that you and I want to see. And yet I can take you to countries, as I'm sure you can, where because of that lack of basic infrastructure, the waste, the produce that is wasted while people are hungry, and indeed that could be utilized in so many ways to bring in revenue and so on to countries that could then develop in terms of education, as our chairman was saying in his contribution. You know, with trade, you can then put money into education and follow through. Now, as a politician, I well know that, you know, fine words are very good. And indeed, we've just had the communique of the G7 meeting. And I'm sure that none of us would disagree with indeed the secure our future prosperity we're going to do through championing a freer, fairer trade within a reformed trading system. Now, I'm sure I've heard those words before, and I'm not denigrating the 7 leaders that were there of their intentions. I'm not, but we have to make these things work. We're going to protect our planet, of course, and we acknowledge our duty to safeguard the planet for future generations. I can take you to places where you would want to protect it, but of course, it is the only means of economic stability or putting food on the table in those areas for the local population. How are they meant to balance that with what we want to see as a global leadership? We're going to strengthen our partnerships, particularly with a new deal with Africa. And we're also going to embrace our values, including supporting a target to get 40 million more girls into education through the Global Partnership for Education. None of that I disagree with, and nor would you, and I'm not under deriding the sentiments behind that. But I think someone was saying it can't all be left to everyone else to deliver on these agendas. It has to be for us to play our parts. We're all in fortunate positions where we have an influence to be able to help to make some of those changes. So let me say, we all invest in a trade, business and so on to get a return. And we need a roof over our heads, we need food on our tables, we need to support our families. But there's much more. There's the social return, the humanitarian return, the impact investment. I'm working on a number of projects on agriculture, power generation, business development, schools and skills academies in some of the countries that I've mentioned. And with that, and I'm delighted to see that backdrop behind Mr. Sandeep, which actually had SDG Global Ambassador, because one of the things that you and I can do, I think, with the work that we do and the projects we support or invest in or lead, is to say, how am I contributing to those sustainable development goals, which will make a real difference of providing support for people who are challenged at the moment with some of the basics, but it builds trade. So the work we're doing, for example, on the agricultural project, which is about trade, but is also about being able to help on sustainable development too, which is about food security and promoting sustainable agriculture. SDG 4 about education and lifelong opportunities for all. Not for me to become clearly the agricultural producer, but for local people to get better productivity, better understanding, collective working together. And then the SDG 5 about gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Let me say this as I come to conclude. I'm not naive to think that Paul Clark or any of you as individuals can deliver on the whole of those agendas, which would make a great difference through stability, trade, peace, prosperity, and you know, just all of us being decent human beings. You and I alone can't do that, and it needs governments to do that, and that's where it comes to needing that visionary leadership that indeed Mr. Bukovic was referring to. But we can do our bit. Yeah, we can do our bit. And all I say is this takes two to tango, and we need good governance and clear platforms in countries to operate as well. Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to join this esteemed panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those comments. That was wonderful. A very good summary of many of the important issues, particularly about sustainable development goals. It was wonderful. I'd like to turn now to Dr. Raghavan Sitarama. He is the CEO of Doha Bank in Qatar, and he's the group CEO of Doha Bank. And it's one of the largest commercial banks in Qatar. In 2015, the business magazine Forbes ranked Mr. Sitarama as 6th in the Forbes top Indian leaders in the Arab world. And he has impressed us greatly, particularly in the Trilateral Global Summit, Edition 1, with his amazingly insightful and wise, comprehensive speech without notes, full of statistics and insight into global trade and financial services. We look forward to hearing your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for your generous introduction. What a joy and what a brilliant combination of people who have converged on one substance. Trade is not merchandise or service, it's people. It's people. We live in an interconnected, interdependent world. The crisis, there are positive sides of it. The tragedy is human tragedy. We had 177 million people impacted and we lost nearly 3.8 million people. We accept. But the governance comes out of it. It's not confined to economics alone. Economics, we could fix it. We could improve the debt servicing capacity. We could increase the liquidity. We can make sure business continuity is on. We could clearly see this environmental governance is, again, converging to be a better prospects to create better world in terms of global warming and climate change. That's the beauty of this positive side of the pandemic. It also tells you a clear message back back to basics. Old values are not obsolete. That's what Mr. Marwa was trying to highlight. It is your humanitarian values. That is me when Abdul Basit, 2 years before, when he converged on a beautiful combination of people, and the substance was humanitarian values. There's a beautiful saying by the former president of India: when there is righteousness in your heart, there is beauty in your character. When there is beauty in your character, there is harmony in your home. When there is harmony in your home, there is order in the nation. When there is order in the nation, there is peace in the world. That's what the bottom line is all about. If you aim at short term, you're going to cultivate flowers. If you aim at medium term, you're going to cultivate trees. If you aim at eternity, humanity, you build. That's what exactly this crisis. It defied all the logics. It defied caste, creed, religion, race, name it. Nobody is an exception to the crisis. Is it not an opportunity as a defining moment for us to turn it around? Not only we have to create a better world, we need to create better citizenship to this world. That's the message. Strengthening the global economy, we all know there's a contraction of 3.3% last year across the globe, except China, which was doing around 2.3% in positive territory. The rest of the world were under the water. This year, possibly, 6% was originally foreseen, then it was revised downward to 5.6%. That's what global growth is all about. Advanced economies are going to move because of the positive sides in terms of vaccinations. They may do around 5.4%, and emerging markets, developing economies might do around 6% as against originally indicated 6.7%. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. How do we create a better world? Merchandise trade, if you look at it, last year was a minimum poultry 5.3%, perhaps it may do even 8%. That will give you peace? No, it will not. What we need to converge is to recognize the opportunity and redefine ourselves in terms of social governance, economic governance, again, human governance, and environmental governance. That's what the message everyone was trying to give, including Paul, the last speaker, sustainable development goals. How do I eradicate extreme poverty? How do I make sure food security comes in? How do you ensure global warming and climate change, increasing sea level, animal extinction? Look at the carbon emission which this society has created. We don't have future for our children and grandchildren. That's what the message everyone is converging on. We have to develop a better world, then we have to understand sustainable development goals comes in prospects. If you understand you have to build humanity, then the whole thing works. The measurable tools are very many. We have all options open. Trade or investments, banking or finance can converge and create a momentum in the redefined world. We have solutions which are conventional, which are having a fresh perspective. We will come together. And that's not the point of contention. In terms of trade, developed world and developing world always had contentious issues because we need to believe that we live as global citizens. One world, one citizenship, integrate. That's a message. It's not disintegration. Disintegration has created more divisions. That's how East India Company invaded India. Then the result was a reflection of so much divisions within India itself. We have learned lessons. History has given us enormous amount of lessons for us to learn. But what we need is to articulate thoughts. Your thought becomes action. Action becomes habit. Habit becomes character. Character becomes your destiny. That's what we need to understand. How do I make sure gender equality I will bring in, diversity I will bring in? How do I make sure we give in the corporate boardrooms the diversity I bring in? Women participation in governance is not an ordinary issue. You have to. First time American history has witnessed a vice president as women. Look at the most advanced country still struggling with diversity. Corporate boardrooms have to come to terms in terms of recognition of the fact it is an opportunity for us to build humanity. And that's what the message we have to understand. And again, healthcare, we are all recognizing the importance of it. It is not money. Can you create gross happiness? Can you, instead of GDP, can you create gross domestic happiness? Like Bhutan has advocated as a principle-centered value. Can we bring in such values? That's what the message we need to articulate in substance. Then comes global warming and climate change. All are interconnected in terms of humanity. If we have to build this partnership for the entire gamut of sustainable development goals, which are 17, which Marwa has mentioned, and again, Mr. Paul has mentioned, we need to build a partnership. Bring this partnership. Here is the defining moment. Look at the digital governance. Look at the global governance, which were impending in terms of substance. Why? We have divided. The globalized world created income inequality. The haves and have-nots have become widened That has created more disparity, more divisions, more hatredness. We love. That's what everyone was advocating. Peace and love are coming together. Integrating your mind and heart and is eternal. And that's what we need to understand. The substance remaining in loving people. That's what spirituality, which was internally drive, not externally alone. Internal drive gives you realization as against education alone. Education gives you civilization. A trade can give you, enormous affluence, but that is not alone. It's not gold medal which I achieve myself. It is golden moments can I create for humanity. Can I bring in value systems, bring in a foster appreciation for humanity? Can I make sure? There's a famous Tamil poet said, "Tani manidanukku unavillayil jagathinai olithiduvom." If there is no food for single individual, I will destroy this world. Bharati, famous, poet Bharati. That's what exactly we need to understand. We need to articulate solutions for humanity. That's where the conviction and character principle-centered peace comes in. Peace is not outside. Peace within you. You as an individual. You are the catalyst for the change. And that's where we need to look at the future generations. We need to build this partnership to create more ethical and moral governance. Why?
Thank you so much.
What has changed the world? What has changed the world? I will finish, Robin, in a minute. In substance, greed has changed the world. Contentious issues to become how much material I will be. No. Look at objectively ensuring you have value systems which are second to none. Build this partnership to make sure we love everyone, we like it. Every day becomes interesting, peace comes in, trade flows automatically without contentions. And that's what we need to articulate and take this pandemic as an opportunity for us to turn around and make sure we will create a better world, better citizenship to this world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. I love your passion. It's wonderful and a wonderful speech. Thank you. We now have the honor of presenting awards. The Global Humanitarian Award will now be presented to a number of our speakers. And Professor Dr. Arban Malaj and Dr. KJ Purushottam will have since the honor of presenting these awards. So first, we would like to present the award to Dr. Andrew Nevin, our first speaker. And the Global Humanitarian Award, as you can see, is in honor of international recognition for your virtue in persistently serving humanity with your noble deeds. And by His Excellency Anthony Carmona, the 5th President of Trinidad and Tobago, at the Trilateral Global Summit, awarded on the 16th of June 2021. And this one is for Dr. Datuk Amar Bukovic, who we'd like to present to you first. And we're also presenting to Dr. Sandeep Marwah.
Well, thank you very much. If I had the chance just to extend my gratitude for
yes, please.
It's a great honor to be part of this initiative. I think these initiatives are actually very much needed in today's world. And as I mentioned earlier, we would really like to extend our thanks to Dr. Abdul Basit Syed. This is really a great direction in which he's going. And thank you very much for the certificate that you are extending to me.
Thank you for your remarks. And could we have a response from Dr. Sandeep Marwah?
Very much. I'm feeling so great. I'm really thrilled with this certificate, about this honor. I must extend my heartiest thanks to the whole WHD organization, especially to Dr. Abdul, for considering me for this award. I think with every award, you feel a little more responsible towards your work. And I think this award has added a little more responsibility on my shoulders, which I promise you that I will do the needful. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we now show Dr. Andrew Nevin's certificate, please?
That's the wonderful certificate for the Honorable Paul Clark. Paul, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I say, genuinely humbled to receive the award, and I do thank WHD very much for recognizing supposedly the work that I've done. But it is about, I think, as our colleague at the very end was saying, about being decent human beings, decent citizens, doing our best that we can. And I accept the award indeed on behalf of my other fellow people that I work with to try and make those differences and to honour the SDGs in this world. Thank you very much for the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Could I have a brief comment from Dr. Andrew Nevin, please?
And it's a great appreciation to WHD for this this honor. I mean, I think, as the Honorable Paul Clark said it, I mean, all we can do individually and then with the people we affect and collaborate with is try to do our best to make the world a better place. And hopefully at the end of each of our lives, we're at peace with what we've tried to do. So, but collectively, we have the chance to bend the arc of history.
Thank you so much. And could I have a comment from Dr. Raghavan Sitarama, please?
Oh, thank you. I'm truly humbled by the recognition and our shared belief, which we all have ventilated now. And that's the fiber, that's the integrity to make sure we create a better world, a better citizenship to this world for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all your comments today. It's been really a wonderful panel. And I'd just like to ask now Dr. KJ Purushottam to give a vote of thanks. And I'm sorry for lack of time. I wonder if you would come forward and present the vote of thanks. Thank you.
It's beautifully, thank you, Rob. It's beautifully raining in Bangalore, India, and I can feel the peace and harmony. I apologize me wearing a mask as I'm in a conference center in my office with the board members. So just to give you a quick background about myself, I was the Honorary Consul of Republic of Macedonia for Bengaluru. I represent the International Human Rights Defense Committee expert from the United Nations. And I really believe that this is a very important initiative taken for the key of, it's a key to success of the global economy and the peace and harmony towards the humanity. And I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi ji here by saying, humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. So honorable guests of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I would like to say that through the COVID-19 in the world has varied humanly and helping one another. I, on behalf of the World Humanitarian Drive, and on behalf of myself, extend a very heartily vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing your important word and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Andrew Nevin, Partner and Chief Economist of PwC Nigeria, Professor Dr. Arban Malaj, MP and former Finance Minister Albania, Dr. Raghavan Sitaraman ji, CEO of Doha Bank, Datuk Amir Bukvik, CEO of Bosnia Bank International, Dr. Sandeep Marwaji, Chancellor AAFT University of Media and Arts Center. I think, sir, today you have said some golden words about peace, love and unity, and Honorable Mr. Paul Clark, MP from the Parliament of the United Kingdom. And for all your well-researched speeches to strengthen the global economy for future peace in this world under the WHD initiative, Trade for Peace, in this second edition of Trilateral Global Summit. I really congratulate the WHD group for their efforts. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Abdul Basit Syed ji, founder and chairman of WHD, for initiating this great summit. And I really believe that it's going to be of a great success very soon. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would want to state that the most important, I would like to thank the most important speakers on this panel for their great views on the economy and various sectors. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be with you all and an honor. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Very much.
In 10 minutes' time, we have the next session, which is Passport for the Future, speaking to win the world after COVID. So please join us for this next session. And my great thanks for all the honorable contributors for this wonderful and wise, insightful session that we've just heard. Thank you.